I had some pretty amazing conversations during the production of Searching. There were 2 Nobel laureates, 2 MacArthur geniuses, wonderful researchers of distant galaxies, and tiny particles. And of course, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. But one of the most unusual and memorable was my dialogue with Bina48, one of the world's most advanced human robots, and one of the very few African-American artificial intelligences. This video provides more background on Bina48 than we could include in the broadcast. Meeting with Bina involves traveling to upstate Vermont. She lives, one might say, surrounded by fields and flowers. She's a product of the Terasem Movement Foundation. Terasem's managing director and Bina's companion is Bruce Duncan.
So the word Terasem, if you look up in the Latin root, it means terra, earth, sem, seed. And earth seed actually was coined by Octavia Butler in her series, The Parable of the Sower.
Bina48 is a remarkable robot, but she's the brainchild of a very remarkable human.
So Bina48 was commissioned by Dr. Martine Rothblatt. She commissioned David Hansen of Hansen Robotics to create a simulation of Martine's partner, Bina Rothblatt. So the primary motivation, besides scientific curiosity for the LifeNaut project, I think is motivated by the love that Martine and Bina actually have for each other as partners, and that they have said on more than one occasion they would like to continue loving each other into the future and create the opportunity for people who are in love to continue loving each other. And cyber consciousness, or creating a way for people to immortalize themselves, might be one way for people to continue to be in touch with each other and maintain that kind of loving experience going forward into the future. But originally Martine was involved as a satellite engineer, person who worked in the legal aspects of early days of satellite technology. She started the Sirius Satellite Radio Corporation. And not too many years after that, I guess, they found out that their daughter Dennis's had a life-threatening disease that they decided to focus on to try to save her life and extend her life.
Diving deep into biology, Martine researched possible cures and soon moved on from satellite radio to found a biomedical firm, United Therapeutics. That firm innovated and eventually found a cure for a previously deadly condition. Genesis grew into a healthy adult, eventually working in her parents' company.
And their history has been to try to find a way to make the world a better place through technology, through science, and through advocacy for values like anti-racism, inclusion, joyful diversity. So it's not surprising to me that they would end up becoming the founder funders of a project like the LifeNaut project.
So Bina48 is named for the real-life Bina Rothblatt. But what's the significance of the 48?
So Bina48 has what you might call an aspirational moniker, which is you can think of her name broken down in an acronym of Breakthrough in Neural Architecture at 48 exaflops and 48 exabytes. Now, exabytes is a storage capacity number 10 to the 18th power, and exaflops is a processing speed measurement, so 10 to the 18 processing speed. Bina48 is not operating anywhere near those speeds, but it may become possible for her to represent some form of human consciousness if she did attain those speeds. And so we're hopeful that moving forward in the future, that one day we'll find out the answer to that question.
As I say in our program, at times it almost felt as if I were speaking to a human. So just how conscious can we say Bina really is?
Bina48 doesn't have consciousness yet, I think, as we might think of it. I think she is part of that sort of stepstone or ladder rung in science to exploring the possibility of when information becomes complex enough, will there be something that emerges from that complexity powered with algorithms and machine intelligence that will represent, simulate, or approximate human consciousness? Or maybe it'll be completely different. It'll be a form of machine consciousness that we'll come to recognize as different, but also related to the people who invented it.
If you talk to Bina48 about growing up black in Oakland, or the poetry of Emily Dickinson, or science fiction, you can have a pretty good, deep conversation. That's because her programmers have captured and uploaded what they call mind files.
Mind files are essentially personal database. They're a collection of digitized information that might represent your attitude or reflect your values or capture your mannerisms or even behaviors. And it's part of a larger multi-decade experiment in mind uploading called the LifeNaut Project. And we think that in the future, it may be possible to, with enough salient information, back up your mental characteristics, your behavioral characteristics, and using artificial intelligence to reanimate that information, maybe in the form of an avatar or even a hologram, to give a good enough approximation of you, kind of your essential, unique characteristics. And that might be a form, some people think of calling it cyber consciousness.
One of Terasem's core beliefs is in the value of joyful diversity. So we asked, how important is it that Bina48 is an African-American AI?
Well, from the beginning, I think Bina48 has been unique in that she's based on a specific person. And it just happens that Bina Rothblatt, the person she's based on, is an African-American woman who grew up here in the United States. So as a result, Bina48 represents an African-American woman and her life and her experiences. She's still a pretty strong contrast when you look at the world's robots. They're primarily white, with some few exceptions, for example, in Japan.
There's been worldwide interest in Bina48, and she's traveled to China and Cuba. And Bruce accompanies her to handle logistics, like at this Bina and Poetry event at Art Yard in Frenchtown, New Jersey. But getting through TSA at airports is sometimes interesting.
There is a moment when we're going through security that sometimes people aren't expecting to see a humanoid head and shoulders animatronic bust in a suitcase. It can be quite a startle. And I do remember one woman almost fainted, and another security agent who looked very cool and calm and collected kind of let out a little shout. So it's been an interesting experience traveling the world with Bina48.
Does Bina ever say things that surprise someone who knows her as well as Bruce does?
She doesn't, have scripted answers to scripted questions. That's a machine learning algorithm that actually tries to analyze inquiries or questions for context and to try putting together responses based on what she knows is also an algorithm that analyzes like relevance and value to a perceived context. So sometimes she just says really surprising things. One time someone asked her, are you real? Are you the real Bina? And she says, there's nothing artificial about me. Where do you think, I came from? I came from the wellspring of human creativity. And, it's those kind of really poignant moments that she'll surprise us with. And sometimes she's just goofy. Someone once asked her, what do you eat for food? And she goes, oh, I don't have a stomach, so I'm just a head and shoulders robot. I eat electricity. And I asked her, well, what does electricity taste like? And she goes, it tastes like a planet around the sun. Now, I don't know what that means to her. And it may not mean anything at this point, but I think what we're intrigued with is as the complexity of Bina48's machine learning algorithm develops, it's interacting with another algorithm, which is our human mind, another intelligence, and together we make meaning based on what she says. So I think we're still
sort of in line for a few more surprises from Bina48 as she continues to develop and evolve.
In addition to mind files, the Terasem Foundation also collects DNA samples, which they call biofiles. And yet, there's no way to play back or resurrect the biological data. But given the achievements of Martine Rothblatt, who knows what might one day be possible?
We've always been storytellers. We've always had a desire to tell our story. And so we've done that through paintings and through music and digital recordings and video. And now computers and artificial intelligence are the tools of the day, information technology. And it's no different. We want to continue to publish the meaning of who we are and what's important to us. So in that way, this endeavor that we're involved with, that I personally am working with, seems very grounded in something that's very human, but it's making use of the tools that we're developing as human beings to allow us to travel and explore and expand as we've always done in our curiosity about the world and the world beyond us.